Yahoo Sports Fantasy Football Live is presented by Popeyes and powered by Ram Trucks.
Welcome to week 14. I got the Christmas sweater memo. I went full Grinch, but there will be no Grinches today. Only joy, 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 joy down in our heart as we are 1 week closer to the college football. My God, you can tell my brain's been to the fantasy football playoff that's right around the corner. Andy Barron's, Matt Harmon. I'm Jason Fitz. There will be no committees to decide on tiebreakers. Although in one of my leagues, it's gotten a little heated. The tiebreakers are getting down to like who beat who and who scored the most points. This is a heated time of year, Andy Barron's like, I don't know how to keep friendships.
You didn't have that settled before the season started? Like you're debating now how you're going to decide who gets the final playoff spot? That's wild. Who is the commissioner of this league? Tell me you're not the commissioner of this league.
No, God, no. This is the second week in a row. I feel like I've thrown this league under the bus. It's a bunch of people that were relatively new and a couple of us that have played and everybody wanted to get into it. And the commissioner's a first-time commissioner and he made things really complicated. Sorry if he's watching. Love you, buddy. But he made things really complicated. And I think at the beginning, everybody was like, yeah, sure. And now they're actually finding out what these rules are, and it's gotten a little contentious. That's all. We needed somebody as, smart as Matt to come out and save us, buddy. Like, you told me last week I should just get out of a league that didn't do things, like that had a restriction on running backs. I'm just saying, might be the same league. So, lessons learned.
I'll abstain and just not be a part of any sort of commissioner debates. Fitz, you brought up your sweatshirt here, the Christmas stuff. I want to note tonight I am wearing a Crozet t-shirt here. It's from King Family Vineyard after your vicious attack on wine last week. I had to show support for one of the many great wineries here in Virginia in the Charlottesville area up in the Monticello Trail. So shout out King's Family Vineyard. And, Fitz, this is about you and your disrespect of wine and the entire industry last week.
If you would have let me know, I definitely would have worn a Diet Sprite t-shirt or sweatshirt tonight.
Yeah. Then we could have mixed. Because that's what normal human adults do.
Classic Fitz combo. Yep.
I don't want to brag or anything, but I've got this Diet Cranberry Ginger Ale tonight. Oh, it is. It's tasty, it's festive. It's got, Diet Cranberry Ginger. Like, y'all need to come to obviously, who's got the highfalutin taste around here? I think it's the guy with the Diet Cranberry Ginger Ale, not the guy that's out there supporting local vineyards. By the way, if you get any free wine from that, you better be sending it along. All right, we are here all the way up to kickoff of Thursday Night Football, obviously, but we will predict everything that you need to know for the entire weekend. Let's take a look first, though, at the Thursday Night Football matchup that we get, and I'm talking the matchup of the year, the one you've been waiting for, the juggernaut, two of the biggest brands. I'm trying to sell this thing. It sucks. Patriots taking on the Steelers. You see the records there. The Patriots are a 5.5-point dog in this one. And then the most amazing part of this, the point spread on this, the over-under is at 30. At 30. And I feel like hammer the under. Here are some of the inactives you need to know about Ramondre Stevenson, Demario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, Najee Harris. We also have now found out that Devontae Parker will be inactive. So a lot of guys missing from this, and frankly, a lot of guys missing from this from the Patriots at a time where maybe they're not that interested in winning football games. I'm just saying, conspiracy theorists might wonder if maybe the inactive list looks sort of like they're trying to get that top pick in the draft. In the meantime, Matt Harmon, give us something you've got your eye on in this juggernaut of a matchup.
Oh, man, where to begin? So many sexy matchups, so many potential really tantalizing storylines. No, listen, I am actually interested to see if the Steelers can get their run game back on track, because that had been a group that was really, for Steelers adjusted standards, kind of cooking of late. Now we've got Najee Harris coming in banged up off a performance last week where the Steelers ranked dead last in rushing EPA. And that was a great matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. I'm pretty sure one of us idiots, this idiot, said oh yeah, both Steelers running backs, great start against the Cardinals. And look, that game was very stop and start, literally. Stop and start, I couldn't believe it was still going on by the late afternoon. But again, the lack of rushing juice from that offense last week was super disappointing. So I'm curious in this matchup, which should certainly be a slobber knocker, low scoring, plenty of rush attempts. Can we see Jaylen Warren pop here? Is Najee Harris, again, how effective is he going to be coming in banged up? I think that's the biggest question for the Steelers offense right now.
All right, so I'm going to be a beacon of light. Well, I'm going to be the Grinch here, but we're going to go with the most recent, Cumberbatch Grinch, where he's looking outside and he's looking through the window and he sees the family having a glorious time and his heart starts to grow a little bit. That's where I am. I'm going to find something positive to keep your eye on in this matchup. How about I know, I'm going to say something positive about the Patriots. Their defense is actually, it's okay. Look, when you talk about points allowed and when you talk about the way they've been able to play against particularly bad offenses, they've done better than they're getting any credit for. I understand that this is an abject disaster of a season for New England and that they frankly just live in a barrel of suck. But if you look over the last few games, they lost 6-0 to the Chargers. They lost 10-7 to the Giants. They lost 10-6 to the Colts in their last 3 games. They only gave up 20 points to a Washington offense that looks like it can be at times explosive. Heck, they only gave up 25 to Buffalo, which is saying something for as bad as they are. I'm just saying that in a world where everything feels lost for the Patriots, especially from a fantasy perspective, maybe playing their defense against Mitchell Trubisky isn't the worst play here. Like, there might be something glorious and good if we're looking at all of these unders and all of this terrible offense. Maybe the Patriots defense could be a secret weapon that gets your fantasy football team in to the play. How about that? Like, just finding something positive about the Patriots. Andy Behrens, you watch enough Iowa football, you can find positive and bad. What do you got for us?
Yeah, this game is home base for me. You kidding me? A total of 30, 29 and a half, whatever. This is my life. This is every Saturday for me. Nothing unusual about it. I think what honestly interests me, at least to a certain extent, is the fact that Mitch Trubisky is back. That buzz you're feeling, Fitz, that electricity tonight, that's Mitch fever. Kenny Pickett obviously down for multiple weeks following surgery. I won't try to convince you that Pickett was playing like elite ball or anything like that. He'd thrown 2 touchdowns passes since September, which is wild. But I do think the Steelers kind of did some fun stuff, like in the first games of the post-Matt Canada era. Some deep shots, some things that we weren't seeing earlier in the season, deep seam shots to Freiermuth. It was kind of fun. Also, there's one thing that Pickett was doing very well, and that is not giving away the football. He had not thrown a pick in 8 weeks, not since October 1st. That's not really Mitch's thing, right? Mitch has thrown 7 interceptions and just 6 TD passes in 10 games with Pittsburgh. So that's a problem. For what it's worth, though, Deontay Johnson actually averaging 2.2 more receptions and almost 40 more yards per game with Mitch than with Kenny Pickett over the past 2 seasons. So maybe he's helped by this. I'm just trying to make a case for absolutely anybody. Otherwise, of course, the main beneficiary of this change is going to be New England's defense. No question about it.
Look, this thing is just going to be interesting to watch. All right, we'll give you some help here now as we try and help you find a way to make some money out of this abject disaster of a football game. It is time to bring the props, and I will go first on this by just reminding everybody, I live in the New England area. I'm up here in Connecticut. So last week I was meeting up with some buddies to watch a bunch of football. We went to a local establishment. I was surrounded by all sorts of Patriots fans in this local establishment, and somehow they had that Patriots game on multiple TVs. So imagine my surprise when midway through the game, a chant breaks out in the bar. It was Crappy Zappy, dun, 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 and they did it over and over again. It stuck in my head. Bailey Zappy. Under 156. That is not a misspeak by me for once. Under 156 passing yards. This is easy money. I mean, when you start taking out the way these quarterbacks, I'm not sure this week. I showed a little constraint. I didn't take the unders on both quarterbacks, but you wouldn't have to work hard to talk me into it. This Zappy quarterback situation is not going to look good against this Steelers defense at all. I like under 156. Matt Harmon, what do you got for us on the props?
Yeah, I mean, the New England Patriots wide receiver room, what a beautifully assembled group. It is like the last couple of years, they've just had everybody that I have thought is like super overrated when the public was super high on them. Oh yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster, add him to the mix. Remember how excited people were for him back in the day? Devontae Parker. Yeah, remember your old tweets about that one? What an embarrassment. Jalen Reagor. And then, they always have to have one like slot guy that I'm actually kind of sneaky excited about. Demario Douglas reprising that role for Jacoby Myers, although he's not going to play in this game. So let's bring our sights to another player that people were actually drafting pretty high. Like, go back and look at your best ball teams. Maybe embarrassingly high at some point during the summer. Tyquan Thornton, I will take the under on 23.5 receiving yards here, mostly because, everything I just said about this receiver room. But secondly, Joey Porter Jr. is awesome, and he's one of the few shadow corners in the NFL. He just gave a 0 spot to Marquise Brown last week, who's kind of a similar, smaller speed receiver, except the only catches Marquise Brown, when he's healthy, is actually a good player. And again, I've given you my thoughts on this Patriots receiver room. So, yeah, I'll be taking the under on this Tyquan Thornton character right here.
I just looked it up to remind myself, and yeah, Thornton ran a 4.21 40. I just feel like that was the moment everybody was like, that means he's going to be great. See how that works out. All right, Andy, it's to you now. Give us a prop you like, and I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to match the trend of our underwhelming expectations.
Yeah, I love this. We're all taking unders on outrageously low numbers. I'm doing the same. I'm going to take Ezekiel Elliott, longest rush under 13.5 yards. He hasn't done this since October. He's had 45 carries since the game in which he did it, too. Zeke has 2 runs this entire season that went for over 13.5 yards, and those runs went for 14 and 17. He's not even really having a terrible year relative to our early season expectations, but like, come on, he's averaging 3.8 yards per carry. Pittsburgh's defense is a respectable, like, shrewd group, and they are going to make life difficult for Zeke and for all these other junior varsity Patriots in this game. I guess I reserve the right to talk up Elliott later tonight as like a strictly volume play, but he is not exactly a big play guy at this stage in his career. It's been a few years since that was the case.
Before we move on, I want to at least quickly point out, this is the Patriots versus the Steelers, the type of matchup that usually everybody's salivating at coming into the season. And a reminder that in the offseason, when we're playing the schedule game and saying, oh, God, like, you just don't know. This is what makes the NFL great. Usually we're happy about surprise matchups that are great. Tonight, we're just getting punished by a surprise matchup that's absolutely awful. None of these players are game changers. Now, let's take a look at our fantasy game changers that will actually dynamically impact this week. For this week, powered by Ram Trucks. You know the drill. We'll give you a word we associate with Ram Trucks and then a player that we associate with that word. Andy Barrett, you are up. Your word, fast.
This is Keaton Mitchell for me. He is a lot of things, and one of them is fast, like scary fast, 4.3 fast, and you see that speed on every touch. He's already scored a pair of touchdowns in pretty limited usage this season. He's got a receiving role. But here's the thing that excites you if you added Mitchell, and it kind of terrifies you if you had Gus Edwards on a roster. In Week 12, before that team's bye, Mitchell outsnapped and outgained everyone in Baltimore's backfield. He played 33 snaps to Gus's 19. He gained 89 yards compared to Gus's 37. It's still a committee for the Ravens, but Mitchell now looks like he might be actually the head of that committee. He's not gonna have an easy matchup this week against the Rams, but it's beatable. It's a middle of the pack run defense. They allow 4.2 yards per carry. If Mitchell is getting 10 or more touches a game, if he's seeing double-digit touches rest of season, he's going to be an automatic start for me.
I love that. I'll give you my word is trustworthy. And this is not some hot take who I'm going to pick, but there's a reason for it. Trustworthy is Tyreek Hill versus the Titans. Now, part of this is just Tyreek, right? Like, this is part of it. But also this MVP conversation that we're trying to have. If there's ever been a year in my mind that a non-quarterback could win it, it is Tyreek this year for the numbers he's put up. But then look at the Titans defense, which is absolutely terrible. Tyreek is going to be able to carve up this secondary. The secondary, particularly for the Titans, is not good enough. And I think where we are right now is everybody understands the history that's here and available for him as a player, which means when there are advantageous matchups, I think the Dolphins are going to try and take advantage of it and put up big video game-like numbers. I could see Tyreek going for 175 in this game easy, simply because A, he can, B, the Titans won't be able to stop him, and C, Mike McDaniel knows that they're going to have to inflate those numbers if they want that guy to have a shot at the MVP. We'll have another MVP conversation from somebody that plays the game coming up, but that's why I think Tyreek is trustworthy for me. Matt, the word for you is premium.
Oh, man, premium. Andy, I'm going to talk about a Bears player here, DJ Moore. He's had some premium production of late. 6 games, the last 6 games with Justin Fields, he owns a 31% target share. He's cleared 700 yards and he's got 6 touchdowns to his name. And I'll admit it, that coming into this year, I was kind of like, okay, DJ Moore, obviously, he's a very good number 1 receiver. But is he tapped out at like a very good number 1 receiver? Can he take the jump, the leap to great number 1 receiver? And if you look at it, man, like he is having a career year with the Chicago Bears. 83.6 yards per game, career best. 75.3% catch rate, career best. 10.8 yards per target, career best. I think he is separating against man coverage at a better rate than he has at any point in his career, and that was already a strength coming into this year. And now, boys, he gets to play the Lions. The Lions' pass defense is not good. So bad, in fact, that they are 32nd since week 8 in success rate allowed on dropbacks. So, yeah, I think they were going to get a pretty premium performance out of DJ Moore this week.
I love all this Bears praise. Look at that. Let's just kumbaya. We're all feeling Christmassy now. All right, no matter what you're looking for in a light-duty truck, the 2023 Ram 1500's got you covered. Score yours at ram.com. Now, you guys know you can get in on the conversation. Hashtag AskFFL. Let's help you make some picks. We're going to take a look at some tough flex decisions with multiple players submitted by you, great people, to us. And we will start with question number 1. It comes from Mark, who says, start 2, Jay Jetta, Ridley, Cooks, Reed. Am I crazy for thinking Reed and Cooks are most reliable options? I will throw this to Andy because Andy always likes it when the questions are qualified. It's his favorite. So go ahead.
Yeah. I hate these situations where I have to like talk the guy away from doing the thing that he clearly wants to do. You're a little bit crazy for thinking that Brandon Cooks and Jaden Reed are the most reliable options in a question that involves Justin Jefferson. I get it. Hasn't played in a while. He has been a full participant in practice, though. There's just no way that I'm sitting Jefferson here. And like when we talk about Brandon Cooks, it's not like reliability that we're really leaning into there. It's, the matchup is super friendly against Philadelphia, obviously, and he's an explosive player. But we're not talking about somebody who's likely to see 10, 12 targets. So Jefferson for me is easy. And I'm actually going to go Jaden Reed as the other. I think especially in a situation where Christian Watson probably won't play, might not play, Reed is the most bankable option in that receiving core.
I'm going to be at that game in Vegas against the Vikings. If Justin Jefferson goes off, it's going to be tough for me to stay sober for my Sunday night show. I'm just saying. All right, let's bring the next question up. And it comes from Run Dub B Run. Says, I really read that just as wide as could be. Hashtag AskFFL. Need to sit 2, half PPR. Achan, Mostert, Mixon, or Kyron. What do you got for us, Matt?
Oh, man, Andy's favorite questions type was the last one. This is my least favorite one. It's like, hey, look at all these great options I have. Why don't you tell me which is the 2 best? I mean, I don't know, man. And especially because you've got both Dolphins running backs. I mean, that is just like setting yourself up to be upset. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean here, questioner, but like, come on. What are we doing here? Why do you want to torture yourself like this? With all that said, the easy option here is Kyren Williams. I know it's a tough matchup. I know the Ravens defense is very good, but he has just such a bankable workload. I mean, how can you go away from him? And I know that Joe Mixon's coming off this great Monday night performance, but I really want to tell you to take one of these Dolphins back, and I really don't know which one to pick, but I think because of how he was used in the first half, I'll go Raheem Mostert here for your second option.
All right, let's get the next question coming in as we continue to help you guys out. Remember, hashtag AskFFL to get in on the conversation. Spo Bros Knows says, half PPR, Flowers, London, Deontay, Keaton, Mitchell. Pick 2. What do you got for us, Andy?
Yeah, this is tight. They're all kind of in the same range for me, flex-wise. Just talked up Keaton Mitchell, and I legitimately believed it, so I'm going to go with Keaton Mitchell. I think he's fantastic. Again, I think he's probably in line for a dozen touches, maybe more than that. One of the most explosive players in the league we've seen this year, so give me Mitchell. And this comes down to your tolerance for this Thursday night game, because I want to say Deontay Johnson. Again, his numbers with Mitch have been really, really good. They've been better than with Pickett for whatever that's worth. I think he's a great player. I would personally go Deontay here. If you just want to skip this game entirely, though, and pivot to Zay Flowers, that's also fine with me.
All right, let's get another one in here, and this one comes from Brandon, who gives us our next question. A little bit of a qualifier here, but not bad. Brandon says, I have Barkley, Etienne, Kyren, and Brees. Which 2 would you start? And then are either of the other option better flex options than Keenan Allen? I'm starting Jefferson and ARSB. Make your pick. Ask FFL. Armin, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually think that all three of those running backs are great options, and they're all bankable workloads. Like we talked about, Kyren Williams, he's going to be out there a ton. Travis Etienne, same thing. Some of the effectiveness hasn't totally been there of late, but I still think great role on an offense that we trust. I'll say this: if Trevor Lawrence plays, I'm playing Etienne at the flex over Keenan Allen. If Trevor Lawrence does not play, then I'm going to chase some of that volume there with Keenan Allen. But Saquon Barkley and Kyren Williams, I think, are pretty firmly must-starts here in Week 14.
Keep the questions coming in. We will help you with more roster decisions as the show goes on. In the meantime, I can sit here all day and tell you that I think Tyreek Hill is the MVP of the NFL this year, but I'm 5'9¼ and 165 pounds. What the hell do I know? I do know that Austin Ekeler has plenty to say about this. Hey, thank you very much. And knows plenty. Check out this portion of Ekeler's edge from this week.
It's so tough just because if you look at just the impact of position, absolutely the receiver position can make a big impact as well as the running back position can make an impact. However, the quarterback position is like kind of make or break. It's just such an impactful position. Maybe it hasn't been like MVP level of the last quarterbacks that we've seen. I still think it's really hard to just beat out that position. If you look at, Tyreek Hill, like Tua's got to be able to throw him the ball. I'm not sure if Tua wasn't in there, are they still making those types of plays? And so that's the question. Or it's like, is Tua the enabler of Tyreek Hill for him to have a season like that? And so, man, it's tough. It really is tough to really justify another position. I think it would be sick. Is there an option? Is there a chance? Yeah, I think there is, but it's going to have to be something like outstanding. Like this is like never been done before. I feel like to really beat that out, which there are potential with Christian and Tyreek Hill, where Tyreek, is on pace to, set a new all-time receiving record, which I definitely think would definitely be MVP worthy. But like I said, it's going to be tough to beat the quarterbacks.
Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live. Getting you ready for Week 14. Feeling saucy. It's time to sauce it up with 5 new flavors of wings from Popeyes. And you, the viewers, each week, we get your bold fantasy takes on the week's hottest topics through social media. This week, we asked you guys a very simple question. Who do you think will surprise and be the top fantasy scorer this week? Let's see some of the submissions that came in. And the first one, Andy, we'll get your reaction to the very first one that came from Nick as he gives us, man, Jameis Winston living his best life. Thoughts?
Oh, well, I mean, this is the right answer. It's honestly, it's too bad that we started with Jameis because this is the right answer. He nailed it. Congrats. You've taken all the suspense out of this segment. No, it's in fact probably not going to be Jameis Winston. Heck, we don't even know if he's going to start, right? Like we're having another one of these weeks where Derek Carr comes out of Sunday with like 9 different injuries, and then by the time the weekend rolls around, Derek says he's fine, and maybe he's going to be out of the concussion protocol. So we don't even know that Jameis is going to go. Of course, Jameis's range of outcomes in any given week is QB1 all the way down to like QB30, right? I don't think this is going to happen. It would be fun if he gave us a game, though. I won't rule out the possibility that we get like a 3 turnover game from Jameis in which he also scores 20 fantasy points. That's kind of his specialty.
Yeah, I just want to be his buddy. Like, he seems like he enjoys life so much. Let's get the next submission in. This one coming from Fantasy Football Pill, who says, Alvin Kamara against the Panthers, fantasy MVP of Week 14. What say you, Matt Harmon?
Well, Panthers' run defense has been about the worst in the NFL, so you're on track there. Alvin Kamara has one of the best roles for any running back in the NFL. He is a workhorse. He's always out there. The weeks where Taysom Hill and Kalen Saunders aren't out there dominating the red zone work. So, I mean, look, we saw last week, he can be the top scoring running back in any given week. I kind of wonder, though, if the last prediction comes true and Jameis Winston obviously starts and becomes the highest scoring player of the week, is it possible for Alvin Kamara to have an MVP performance because Jameis Winston, he's not going to be checking the ball down to Alvin Kamara in the flats. He's not going to be like, oh, 1 second, I gotta check down. He's actually going to be pushing that ball downfield. So I don't know if those two things can coexist. But yeah, Kamara has a great role and a great matchup here in Week 14.
Now I just want to sit next to the bar, like at the bar next to both of them, and watch them watch the same game with very different wants in the way that goes. All right, let's get the next one. The next one coming in from Hashtag, saying, which, by the way, Hashtag quality name. Zeke about to erupt. Okay, tonight against Pittsburgh, and literally no one on the planet going to see this one coming. Erupt feels a little aggressive, but Andy Behrens, what do you think?
Yeah, erupt feels like a pretty strong verb for this player in this game. I think we kind of have to assume no touchdown for Zeke because the Patriots are lately not one of those touchdown scoring teams. It's just an organizational philosophy. I'm not judging it. Zeke is probably going to need, I don't know, 350 yards in a standard league, maybe 275 in a PPR league in order to like erupt and finish at the top of the scoring leaderboard. Again, in a game with a total like this, a 30-point over/under, I don't see it. Denied.
I love the confidence in the eruption prediction. Let's get another one in here from Peniac Giant, who gives us another person I'd love to be friends with, Gardner Minshew. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, this one's going to be a no for me as well. Look, Gardner Minshew, it's kind of funny. There's like a narrative with Gardner. It's like, oh, he's really keeping the train on the track for the Colts. I mean, you guys are not watching these games. Gardner is trying to throw the game away at least twice, sometimes 3 times per game, which is fine. He's Gardner Minshew. He likes to literally let his hair down and play kind of fast and loose, which is great, but it's not like conducive to necessarily being the top scoring fantasy quarterback, especially because they're not really trying to have him push the ball down the field much. We saw it last week with Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce finally has an eruption game against a very generous pass defense of the Tennessee Titans, and this is a gettable matchup here this week as well, but we've really mostly seen like, okay, Gardner, Michael Pittman's going to be open on crossing routes. You can do a little RPO stuff. Not that nobody respects the R in that RPO. We're mostly just thinking you're going to pass the ball, except you vulture a couple goal line touchdowns now and again. But we mostly just want you to hit Michael Pittman on crossing routes over the middle of the field, and that's it. I think that can be good. I think that can be a viable quarterback streamer. It can be viable for the Indianapolis Colts. I do not think it's going to make him the top scoring quarterback or some kind of fantasy MVP this week.
I want Harmon to give us a new nickname for the RPO where the R is never really part of it. It's just like PO. All right, let's get one more in here coming from Truck Harlem. Truck says, Mahomes will finally go off because he's due. I didn't know that was logic that led to great success. But okay, Andy, what do you think? Mahomes due?
Yeah, well, you certainly do. I'll give you that. I don't know that being due actually carries any weight. I hope it does. This is something that I need in a couple of different spots. This is also entirely plausible, right? Like, finally, we're talking about like an actual great player here. This can happen. Mahomes, he's got like 1 20-point week in his last 5, which is a problem. He's only got a couple games this season in which he has 3 or more touchdown passes. But he does also have like a 39-point fantasy performance on his resume this season. That's something. If he can veer away from some of the receivers on his own team that seem to be actively attempting to sabotage him, that would certainly help out. It's not like Buffalo isn't vulnerable. We've seen them give up some big weeks. So this may seem bold given the actual year-to-date production for Mahomes, but this is totally in play.
If being due is a way that gets you success, I just wonder after 20 years of watching my favorite team suck how I can get a little of that good mojo. All right, remember to sauce up your game day with Popeye's Wings, now available in 5 new flavors, including signature hot and honey barbecue. Make it a combo. Cool things off with an ice-cold Coca-Cola. Available now for pickup and delivery at Popeyes.com and, of course, through the Popeyes app. All right, gentlemen, it is that time of the show. It is that time of the show where we do our primetime picks. And usually it's that time of the show where, things get a little saucy for all of us. Like there's some trash talking, things get a little weird. I won last week. And I'm not just going to, but I'm going to admit this. I can't believe I won because last week it was decided by less than a point in overtime. Somehow, some way I topped Matt Harmon. Matt, any words before we start the contest this week? Anything you'd like to say? Like maybe congrats, Fitz, or yay?
No.
Okay. No. All right, that's good. All right, that was good.
Just get this over with. Get this over with.
We have 2 Monday night games this week, Titans and Dolphins, Packers and Giants. And then obviously we have tonight, we have Eagles and Cowboys. So the way this works is we are only going to pick from the primetime games. You guys know this. So by drafting order, that means Andy is going to go first, which has really become like, we should name this seat the Andy Barron spot, because I'm not sure Andy's even playing the damn game anymore. But Andy, all right, let's see where we are here. You have the first pick. Shock the world and tell us who you're going to take.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, my favorite moment every week of the NFL season is the second this segment ends. Man, I don't know. I got nothing here. I'll just play spoiler. I'll take the best player on the board. I'll take Tyreek Hill. Fitz, you promised me earlier in the show. You guaranteed 175 receiving yards. I'm going to take you up on that. We can pencil it in right now. I will accept it. The man is on pace for 132 receptions, 2,100 receiving yards, and 17 touchdowns this year. That is quite good. And he's got a great matchup. I want him.
You're going to win this week because I think he gets 175 and 3 touchdowns. All right, Matt Harmon, that means you're up. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was no way that Tyreek Hill wasn't going to smash the Titans, but now I see the path. Andy takes him first overall in this contest and puts an incredible hex on him. Listen. The process, people. I was so close to winning last week, and it was basically on the back of this man's performance from Thursday night. I'm going to take him again here on Sunday Night Football. CeeDee Lamb, come on down. We're doing this again. This guy is an absolute superstar. He is crushing it right now. Let's just bring it home this week, pal. Not that it was your fault, but let's bring it home.
Look, that's a great pick, and I think I come in third here, and I just say, hey, I'm not going to overcomplicate any of this. A.J. Brown comes in because I feel like every time we talk about some of these primetime games, there's certain guys you know you can bank on. And at this point, A.J. Brown is obviously one of those. So I'll take A.J. Brown with my first of my 2 straight picks because we're doing a snake draft here. That one's easy. And then I got to figure out where to go next. I'm going to hope that Tyreek Hill falls at the 1-yard line repeatedly. Somehow, some way, and as a result, they have to hand off, right? And when they hand off, they give it to Raheem Mostert in that situation. Now, I'm going to bank that HN and Tyreek Hill get him down inside the 5, and then Mostert has to clean up all the work, and maybe, it feels like a little bit of a 50-50 here on the running backs. I'll take Mostert, go with that, which puts Matt back up on the clock. Matt, what you got for us?
Yeah, listen, Saquon Barkley coming out, big game prior to the bye. Tommy DeVito been kind of quietly cooking lately. I'll go with Saquon here against a Green Bay Packers run defense. Like, I'm basically running back my exact same strategy from last week, where it's like, take CeeDee Lamb, take the running back that was playing the Packers. This guy is probably even a little bit better than Isaiah Pacheco. So look, I was close last week. I'm just got to bring it home this time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it really came down to one catch in overtime. Andy, you have 2 straight picks to try and right these wrongs and win a matchup for once. What do you got?
Yeah, I feel like I've taken Tony Pollard probably, 6 or 7 times this year. They're always in prime time. And it's working for me. Clearly, it's working for me really well. So I'm just going to run that back, do that again. At least he has 80 scrimmage yards in 3 straight. He's got a touchdown in 3 straight. That's something. He's not the reason I've been losing. And then my next pick, I'm going to go, I hope that one guy isn't right and Zeke actually erupts tonight, because then I'll feel bad, because I am going to go with this game. But I'm going to take Jaylen Warren. We got Najee Harris banged up. He's got a knee issue. Warren enters this game averaging almost 6 yards per carry. Plus, he has 38 catches on the season. I know I'm getting points here. If there's a touchdown in this game, I think Warren's the favorite to score it.
Harmon, what are you laughing at? Harmon's laughing. What do you got, buddy?
I love how Andy, spoiler, pulled the curtain back here. In the group text, Andy's like, let's just, there's 2 Monday night games. Let's go ahead and avoid Thursday Night Football. And then he is subjecting himself to a Thursday Night Football player. Buddy, what are we doing here?
I know. I had the right idea. I just didn't have the discipline. I didn't have the discipline to stick with it.
I think sick freak. You're a sick freak, but I love you for it.
Our Kyle Brandt for years has put out angry runs. We need to, off this segment, put out a shirt that just says, I'm sorry, and it's Barron's picks every week, and to just send him to the players like, sorry, man, we screwed you that week. All right, Matt, you're up next. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't think any of the players are returning our call on that one. I am hoping that Devon Achane returns some big value here. Look, I respect what Raheem Mostert has done, but, I mean, come on. Achane was running wild in the second half against the Commanders. Was a lot of it garbage time? Yeah, but I'm hoping that was the sign of future things to come here. I mean, the guy's absolutely electric. Let's bring it on home here with Devon Achane.
that leaves me to pick last, and this one's very simple. I have lived this entire contest, of which I am in first place so far, by one important rule. When you can be a troll, be a troll. And this is my opportunity to troll both of you, because every single week I got to hear about Jaden Damn Reed. So you know what? I'm going to pick Jaden Reed so that somebody y'all talk about can be the very reason that I take you all down. This is so simple to me. I got one shot here to win and then be able to be like, your boy did it, because y'all could have picked, after all the Jaden Reed talk, y'all could have picked him. You didn't. So we'll see how that goes. I feel pretty good about it, gentlemen. This contest. Oh, this contest has just been a delight this season. It's absolutely perfect. We'll keep you updated on how we do. Just a reminder to the world, I have a multi-game lead at this point. Each week, Sal Vetri offers up some unique fantasy advice here on the show. Let's check back in now with Sal for his 7 key findings in Week 14.
Here are the 7 key findings that'll help you win your Week 14 fantasy matchup. Finding number 1 is the pickup and play of the week. And this is for Bears running back Roschon Johnson, who's coming off of the bye week, but let's not forget what he did right before the bye. Because in Week 12 against the Vikings, he saw season high usage, 76% of the snaps and 15 opportunities. And the important point to call out is Khalil Herbert was active for this game, and it wasn't a blowout. Roschon just took over the backfield. And Roschon remained efficient, averaging 5 yards per touch in that contest, and now on the year, he is top 20 in fantasy points per opportunity. He's still available in 79% of leagues. Even though he has a tough matchup this week, you need to add it. Finding number 2 is the best spot of the week. And this is for Packers running back A.J. Dillon, who will take on the Giants in Week 14. Now, this assumes Aaron Jones remains out, because Jones hasn't practiced the last 2 weeks and has missed both of those games. And Dillon is coming off of his most impressive game of the year, 87 yards against a tough Chiefs defense. And look, this is the time of year that he finds his most success, because the colder the weather gets, the better for the 250-pound Dillon. He'll take on a Giants defense that allows the 3rd most yards and 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Start Dillon. Finding number 3 is the sketchy spot of the week. And this is for DeAndre Swift, who is coming off of his worst performance as the Philadelphia Eagles starter this season. He saw just 8 touches and saw his snaps decrease to 42% as Kenneth Gainwell was more involved, and you can't blame the blowout, because even on the final drive of the game, Jalen Hurts and the Philly starters were still out there. Swift now has to take on a Dallas Cowboys top 10 run defense that earlier this season he just averaged 2.4 yards per attempt against. If you have a better option, consider starting them over Swift. Finding number 4 is a player who is trending up. And this is Zach Moss, who last week we said we believe in this guy as a league winner the rest of the season. Now, he didn't put up a league winning box score in Week 13, but he saw elite usage. 100% of the Colts backfield carries led to 21 total touches. So he's trending up due to this elite usage and the news that Jonathan Taylor will likely miss 3 to 5 more weeks, meaning Moss might be your starter throughout the entire fantasy playoffs. Finding number 5 is a player who is trending down. And this is for Devin Singletary, who had one of the best roles in football from Week 9 to Week 11 with Dameon Pierce out. During this time, Singletary saw 23.7 opportunities per game. That was top 3 amongst all backs. And he continued to see over 80% of the snaps in Week 12, even with Dameon Pierce back, but in Week 13, the usage started to trend down. He saw just 44% of the snaps and 40 scoreless yards, and now Dameon Pierce is more involved, and the upcoming schedule is brutal. The Texans will face the Jets, Browns, and Titans twice, which is a bottom 5 schedule for fantasy running backs the rest of the year. Finding number 6 is something to monitor, and this is the Browns receiver Elijah Moore with Joe Flacco. Moore played 7 games with Flacco in 2 seasons when they were on the Jets, and here's what happened. He averaged 12 fantasy points on 7 targets per game, 62% more production than he had with any other Jets QB. And in Week 13 with Flacco, the connection continued as Moore saw a season-high 12 targets and over 80 receiving yards. Expect this great usage to continue in Week 14, assuming Flacco continues to start, and Amari Cooper might miss as he left last week with a concussion. Finding number 7 is a strong QB streamer, and this will be whoever starts for the Saints between Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Because in Week 13, Derek Carr left with multiple injuries, a head, back, and shoulder injury, and his status moving forward is doubtful. Whoever ends up starting for the Saints will have a top 10 schedule the rest of the season against the Panthers, Giants, Rams, and Bucks. There's a real shot the streaming quarterback for the Saints is a top 10 option the remainder of the year. So these are the key findings that'll help you win your Week 14 fantasy matchup. All you have to do now is take this information and put it to use to smack around your competition.
All right, let's bring Sal in with the guys and have a December to remember. God, that just feels so good when you say it that way. Just a December to remember. We're going to pick a player at each position with the best playoff schedule that could deliver a league-winning performance. Andy Behrens, we will start with you. Who's on your mind?
Yeah, let's look at quarterback. Obviously, Brock Purdy among the MVP favorites right at this moment. He's coming off a signature game. We know that. Currently leads the league in completion percentage, TD rate, yards per attempt, so yards per completion, pretty much everything related to efficiency. He's also the guy who gets to throw to Brandon Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, CMC, which is a pretty favorable situation. In weeks 15 through 17, he gets Arizona, then it's Baltimore, okay, that's rough, and then it's Washington. So to be clear, the Ravens, obviously a problem. That division has been kryptonite for Purdy so far this year. But Arizona allows the 10th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Washington, the second most. And Washington, remember, is a team that deliberately got worse on defense at the deadline. They've given up 3 or more TD passes in 5 different games. They've given up 30 TD passes so far on the season. Purdy has a very clear chance to be the overall QB1 in championship week when you need him most.
All right, let's go to Sal next and see who's on his mind that can help you win your league. What you got?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to look at a backfield that's playing tonight, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers backfield. Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris. These are guys that are seeing a dozen to 15 touches a week, and they've been great in their own individual rights. You look at Jaylen Warren, he's top 5 in yards per touch, a top 5 player when he touches the ball this year out of the backfield. And Najee Harris is second in breakaway runs. Yeah, that guy has actually been explosive at times this year. But then the big question is, it's the Steelers offense, Mitch Trubisky. They have a 30-point total tonight, historically low. Why do we want to believe in these guys in December? Well, first off, their schedule is fantastic. They get the Bengals, Colts, and Seahawks in the fantasy playoffs. That's a top 5 running back schedule. And then this team is 7-5. After tonight, a winnable game can be 8-5 and push towards the playoffs. I don't think they're going to get there leaning on Mitch Trubisky behind the 31st ranked pass blocking unit. I think they're probably going to do what they did the last 2 weeks, and likely what they'll do tonight, lean on both of these running backs instead.
All right, Matt Harmon, what's on your mind for somebody that can help us get through these playoffs?
Oh, man, maybe this is just like, I wish this was what had happened all season, but I kind of think the Seahawks wide receivers are going to finish the year really strong here. Number one, we saw it on Thursday Night Football. Like, that is what this group is capable of. They're capable of taking over a game. They're capable of putting a cornerback like Deron Bland into the blender. You know, this is a really talented group, okay? Like, DK Metcalf is a baller. Tyler Lockett's still a very good receiver. And JSN can be a dynamic rookie. We're starting to finally see him cook a little bit in one-on-one isolation man coverage situations. Like, this group can ball out. And you look at the schedule, yeah, they have to get through the 49ers again, although I don't think they're going to get taken to the woodshed quite as hard as they did last time they placed the 49ers on Thanksgiving. You get the Eagles. That's a golden matchup. The Titans. Fitz has been dunking on the Titans with the Tyreek Hill stuff all show. And then the Steelers, yeah, Joey Porter Jr., who I talked about earlier, is really good, but all of their other corners, not so good. So maybe 2 of the 3 go off in that game. It just looks like a really nice, soft landing spot for a group that hasn't quite hit expectations so far this year.
Andy, you get a bonus shot here. Is there somebody else on your mind that you think can help everybody win?
Yeah, I'll just throw out a tight end, and I'll first say that actually Travis Kelce and TJ Hawkinson have 2 of the most favorable schedules at this position down the stretch, but you don't need an expert to tell you to start those guys. That's why you drafted them, so you didn't have to think about this miserable position for the rest of the season. But I do want to talk about Jake Ferguson. He's not exactly a set it and forget it guy for fantasy purposes, although he is heavily rostered. He has touchdowns in 4 of his last 6, at least 5 targets in 4 of his last 5. He also just gave us 77 yards and a touchdown against Seattle. He's about to get just a miserable Philadelphia pass defense. They've been super generous all year. And then it's Buffalo, Miami, and Detroit. This is one of the friendliest stretches for the tight end positions down the stretch. It's particularly great when we get to week 17, when we hand out trophies. He's got Detroit, and they allow the 5th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. So the good times should probably keep rolling for Ferguson.
Andy, I just got asked, did you have to text Sam Laporta first to be like, hey, I'm going to talk about another tight end? Was that like, did we get permission to this? I feel like you're cheating on him.
Listen. He's one of those guys at this point. You know what? It was a bit insulting that I didn't include him with Hawkinson and Kelce. I should have. We've righted that wrong now. I should have. He's in that club. He's a guy you never have to think about ever again. You guys are both seeing other people. It's fine. I'm not here to ask questions. All right, let's get some play calling going here. We're going to get in some help you guys with some decisions you're trying to make. You've submitted them. #AskFFL. Let's pull the first question up, and it comes from Marty. Marty asks, Elijah Moore or Chuba Hubbard? Chuba Hubbard. I always do that. And half PPR. All right, so let's go to Sal here. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, so this one, I'll say this. You have some good decisions here, believe it or not, in terms of usage recently. As much as I want to go to Elijah Moore with what looks like Joe Flacco again and no Amari Cooper, I'm actually going to lean with Chuba Hubbard here because he's coming off of a week. 25 touches is great. If we get that again, yeah, every time I take this, but 75% of the snaps. And more importantly, in that game last week, Miles Sanders twice missed some pass protection, and it seems like it got him benched. He's already not seeing a lot of usage because Bryce Young doesn't have time to begin with. And now if your running backs aren't protecting for you, that's not great. Looks like this is Chuba Hubbard's backfield completely, at least for another week and probably the rest of the year. So I'll lean on him for 15 plus touches.
All right, let's get the next question coming in from Miguel. Miguel asks, fantasy playoffs, PPR, flex spot. Breece Hall, Jake Ferguson, Keaton Mitchell. Matt Harmon, what do you think?
Man, it's crazy that Breece Hall is like the least appealing name on this list. I really want the right answer to be Keaton Mitchell here. He sort of looked like he had taken a step ahead of Gus Edwards and Justice Hill coming into or right before the bye week. But coming out of the bye week, I'm a little concerned we get a slight rug pull here and maybe Gus Edwards jumps ahead of Keaton Mitchell. I think that's very possible. Andy talked about it. Jake Ferguson looks great right now. I love the way that, again, he's another one of these players that CeeDee Lamb has unlocked. Like his usage and the attention that he's grabbing has really opened things up for a guy like Jake Ferguson on these underneath routes. I think the right answer here is Jake Ferguson. Even though it does seem crazy sometimes to start the tight end in the flex spot, I think he's a unique case where you can do it.
Also, let's give a little shout out to the Cowboys coaching staff that seems to be finding ways to get everybody open. It's a delight to watch. Andy Behrens, you get the next question. Question number 3 coming from Jack asking, can't believe I'm asking this, Jaylen Warren or Ekeler? Thanks. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm super tempted to say Jaylen Warren. Actually, again, we've got a banged up Najee Harris tonight. Not like he's gonna play. He's had beefy workloads and all that. Like we like Najee just fine, but again, banged up, got the knee issue. Warren among the most explosive players so far in the season, and Austin Ekeler is not one of the most explosive players so far on the season. That is a problem. He does have a stellar matchup. It doesn't get much better than Denver. I'm actually going to go Warren here, though. I think I don't necessarily going to want to say that he leapfrogs Najee rest of season, but I think he probably does in this game. It's not a great spot for him, but just explosiveness-wise, workload-wise, I think I trust him a little bit more.
All right, let's get to the next one coming from Bill. Bill asks, Pickens, Downs, or London, half PPR? Thanks. Sal, what do you think?
All right, Bill, you're probably not going to believe me on this one because a good chance you started last week Drake London and he got you a 1 catch for 8 yards. But that wasn't the matchup. It's a Jets matchup. They didn't want to throw the ball. He only threw 22 times, Ritter, when you take away his throwaways and his balls in the dirt. But if you look at this week's matchup, Tampa Bay, a much better matchup. Second most points and yards allowed to opposing wide receivers. Ritter this year has actually been good in similar matchups. And all year he's been efficient still averaging 7 targets per game in a low volume offense. I'll lean to Ritter, who this same Bucs defense last week gave up 10 targets in a decent game to Jonathan Mingo. You're going to get Drake London as a much better option.
All right, so Harmon, you get the last one. We pull up one more as we continue to get you guys help. Hashtag AskFFL. Devontae or Ayuk, PPR. Harmon?
Ooh, man, a couple of great route runners here. I will go with Brandon Ayuk, though. Number one, I think it's a slightly better spot for him, but also, man, I really do kind of buy into the splits. Sometimes this stuff can be random. Sometimes it's not as instructive as we think, but the splits are pretty strong between Devonta Smith when Dallas Goedert plays versus when he doesn't. When he's out there, Devonta Smith tends to see a slight downtick, and A.J. Brown actually, the offense coordinator said recently he's been getting more double teams now that Dallas Goedert has not been playing. With Goedert back in there, I think Brown goes off. I think Goddard, has a nice little role himself. And I think Devonta Smith is in danger of getting left out in the cold. So I will go Brandon Ayuk here, who just always has such a rock solid floor, especially with the way he's running routes this year.
Keep those questions coming. We still have plenty of time to get to more of them throughout the course of the show. But it's time for a quick break here on Fantasy Football Live. When we come back, it's time to say enough already. Are we giving up hope in Buffalo? Matt's got thoughts on it when we come back. All right, let's take a look at the injury report coming out of practices today. Some big names that we're monitoring, keeping an eye on, not the least of which Amari Cooper with a concussion was not at practice today, at least as far as they could see. Kenneth Walker continues to miss time with an oblique injury. He's missed 2 straight games, limited in practice today, I should say. Zach Charbonnet also limited. Breece Hall hasn't practiced this week with the ankle. And then this one's significant. Isaiah Pacheco didn't practice today with a shoulder injury. And Andy, we talked earlier about sort of the difficulties the Chiefs are having. Pacheco has been one of the spots here that has been at least trying to be reliable for this offense. The loss would seem significant, right?
Yeah, one of the only things that is just consistently working for the Chiefs, right? Plus he had that moment just a week ago when you thought for a second that maybe his season was over and it was a knee injury, ankle injury, whatever, and he shrugged it off and came back the next series. Now we learned that he came out of the game with a shoulder issue. Hopefully it's not too serious. I mean, the Friday practice report will tell us everything. And hopefully, if it is moderately serious, we only have to exist with Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon for 1 week, and then we can get right back to the fun with Pacheco because his schedule down the stretch is fantastic.
After all, we learned earlier that, Patrick Mahomes is due. So that's just the way things work. All right. So I love to get you guys spun up. I love to have a little bit of fun with you guys and just say enough already. This is a chance for you guys to step on a soapbox. Not that either of you need it. You're gloriously tall. And you can get some of the things off your chest that you are tired of hearing from a fantasy narrative standpoint. Andy, start with you. Give me something you are tired of.
Yeah, enough with the Jordan Love discourse existing only at the extremes, okay? Every time a broadcast shows him, he's like the third guy on a graphic with inner circle Hall of Famers Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Or at midseason, all of the talk about Jordan Love was, oh man, maybe Green Bay needs to draft another quarterback. First of all, I can assure you that the Bears, Lions, and Vikings fans in your life do not need to hear any more of this Jordan Love might be the next Aaron Rodgers stuff. I'm all good there. I've heard enough of that to this point. But also, what if, I'm just spitballing, what if Jordan Love is simply a very talented and ascending 25-year-old quarterback with some arm talent, and he's made some terrific plays lately, and he hasn't really paid a price when he doesn't make terrific plays, and he's just ascending and he's good. We don't have to put him necessarily up to the standard of young Aaron Rodgers. That's a little bit of an overreach.
I mean, before we move on, Harmon, we all see the look. Did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
Just mega cope from Andy. I was just wish casting. Please, yeah, please. I don't want to hear any more about this. You could have just said the part where the Bears fans, you didn't even have to include the Lions and Vikings in this, the Bears fans in your life, meaning that Bears fan right over there doesn't want to hear any more about this.
Yeah, we're all good on this topic. Thanks.
It doesn't make for great sports talk conversation, but I do think there's room for hey, that quarterback's pretty good. It wouldn't make for a great segment, but it's hey, maybe he's just pretty good. Okay, fine. Matt, it is your turn. Let's see what we think of what you've got. What are you ready to say enough already to?
Yeah, look, if you spent any time on football Twitter today, you know why I'm a little hesitant to say, hey man, the Bills coaching staff did a really good thing recently. Shout out to Ty Dunn, wrote a great piece over at Go Long. I'm not going to elaborate any more on that topic, but you all can go check it out for yourself. However, all that aside, I do think that Sean McDermott made a really good decision firing Ken Dorsey recently. Enough already with all these nerds out there showing you, hey, the success rate was actually really good. The EPA per play was really good under Ken Dorsey. You know what's been better since Joe Brady took over? Scoring points. Scoring damn points is actually more important to winning games than EPA and success rate. As much as I love that stuff, as much as I love to get down in the spreadsheets. I mean, come on. The reality is you could watch that Bills offense and turnovers and was Josh Allen fully engaged? You knew something was wrong. Sometimes you got to look beyond the spreadsheet and really think about maybe there's something in the building that's going wrong here. And I think we've seen with Joe Brady taking over, there's more motion in the offense. Khalil Shakir's getting more involved. He leads the team in receiving yards in the 2 games that Joe Brady took over. In those same 2 games, James Cook has gone 100+ yards from scrimmage. Enough already with the Ken Dorsey era. Ken Dorsey didn't do a good enough job. I think Joe Brady's doing a pretty solid job here to end the season.
It speaks to some of what Brady did really well at the college level, too, as a passing game coordinator. I love that take by you. All right, Andy Behrens, what do you got? We'll give you another one. Get off your chest.
Yeah, enough with the Kansas City Chiefs still at this late date in the season, messing around with receivers who are not Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice. Kelce has the highest target share on this team, but it's like a tick over 20%. Generally speaking, the best NFL offenses, as certainly this is true this year, they funnel targets to their best players. Let me give you some fun numbers on passer rating when targeted for the Chiefs. Kelce, he's at 112.1. Rashee Rice is at 123.8. That is elite production, superhuman production in Rice's case. And then there's this. Justin Watson, when targeted, 76. MVS, 77. Kadarius Toney, 79.7. He also single-handedly lost them a game. Sky Moore is at 52.1. It can be argued that a target to Sky Moore is literally the worst play in the NFL this year. We got to stop this. Kansas City, at this point what works and what doesn't. I am begging you to feed the good options in your offense and just put the other guys on the shelf.
I now know that the only thing I'm going to ask Santa Claus for on Christmas, given the fact that my beloved Raiders play the Chiefs that day, is for a bunch of passes to Sky Moore. All right. A guy can dream. That's all we can do. It's time to turn to the fantasy community this week. We love to do this. Jennifer Akens of 4 for 4 is back with us. We talked about some players who have optimal fantasy playoff schedules a little earlier, but she's back with Matt to talk strategy and some players to avoid. Take it away, guys.
All right, yes, it is crunch time. Listen, this is the moment, Jen, when people need us to really come through for them. So let's talk roster construction here for the fantasy playoffs. Obviously, I think the layup advice, and I know that I default to this layup all the time, is, listen, it's playoff time. Time to stash those backup running backs. So, Jen, give me a couple good backup running backs that people can stash here to try to boost the upside of their roster.
Absolutely. First guy I have is D'Ernest Johnson with the Jaguars. He's had at least 24% of the snaps in 3 straight games, and he's outtouched Tank Bigsby 22-10 in that time frame. Etienne's dealing with a rib injury. You got Christian Kirk's hurt. Trevor Lawrence is hurt. They might lean on that backfield a little more in the coming weeks, and he's only 11% rostered in Yahoo leagues.
Yeah, I think he is so under the radar just in terms of that immediate path to upside there. If anything happened to the starter, knock on wood, with Travis Etienne, is there another back you might want to highlight that maybe has that same path to upside?
I do, and that is Rico Dowdle of the Cowboys. He's basically one injury away from fantasy gold. He's involved in both the pass and the rush game this year. He's had 32 touches in the last 4 games. And also, honestly, the Cowboys are really hot right now. They may want to rest Pollard for the real NFL playoffs. He's only 10% rostered right now in Yahoo leagues.
Yeah, I love that call. I think Rico's looked really good whenever he has gotten the ball there for Dallas. So let's move to a different part of this roster construction here. Let's talk defenses. We were going back and forth prior to the show, because like I said, I'm the bozo that just takes the low-hanging fruit. But you actually really want to talk about defenses here. The big topic here, Jen, is when it comes to the defenses, do you dance with the one who brought you, or do you try to stream here? What's your personal strategy?
My personal strategy is to dance with the defense that got you there. I think a lot of people want to play matchups in the playoffs, and I get it for positional situations, but when you're dealing with a defense, sometimes a bad defense is a bad defense. Even if they're playing a team that's really bad as well, they still have bad players on their team that aren't performing. So, for example, someone like the Ravens this season, they're arguably the number 1 defense. They have not a great schedule, but they still have a lot of talent on that team. So if it were me, I would stick with the Ravens. I will say, though, I do have someone that I brought to the table. If you want to stream, I feel like Houston is a good option. They're the 13th defense over the last 4 weeks. They have a beautiful matchup this week against the Jets. Then they have Tennessee, Cleveland, and Tennessee again. So if you're looking to stream, I think Houston's a good option. But I feel like if you have a top-tier defense, stick with them through the playoffs. They got you where you are. Stay with them.
I like that. I also like the idea of the Texans getting 2 dates with Will Levis here to finish the season. Yes. We talk a lot about the offensive side of the ball here. Of course, it's a fantasy show, but D'Amico Ryans has those boys cooking down there in Houston. So that's a good streaming call if you do want to stream. But look, Jen, what goes up must come down. If we're going to add these players, we got to drop a few of them here. Give us a couple of drop candidates that might, be roster cloggers at this point if you need to add some of this exciting upside with running backs or you need to stream a defense.
Absolutely. I brought two for you guys. First one is Josh Downs. And I like Josh Downs, the player. I like him as much as everybody else. He's had some really good moments this season, but he is trending in the opposite direction. He hasn't posted more than 43 yards in 4 games. He hasn't found the end zone since week 7. He's got a pretty rough schedule as well for the playoffs. He goes Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Vegas. They're all top half against the wide receivers and fantasy points allowed. So I feel like he's a guy that's not going to crack into your roster unless you have a major injury. So just get rid of him.
Look, that one hurts. That one hurts, I will admit. But the reality is, Jen, you're right. Like, this is a Gardner Minshew-led offense. How much, juice is there really enough to squeeze out of here when Michael Pittman is dominating targets? All right, you said you brought 2 to the table. Who else you got that's a potential drop candidate?
Second guy I have, a little spicy, is Drake London. I get it. People drafted him high. I totally get it. But he's wide receiver 47 right now in half PPR points per game. He's averaging just 8.5. They are a run-heavy offense. Atlanta is 26th in pass attempts this season. You got the Arthur Smith factor, right? He's too much of a wild card to count on for these playoffs when it's win or go home. So Drake London, sorry, but you got to go.
Oh, man, Drake London, a great player, but is he really the type of player that's going to help you win your league? Probably not, and maybe not for some of those backup running backs, but the chance does exist. Well, hey, it's always a good chance. We're going to have a great conversation whenever Jen Akens stops by the show. Make sure you check out all of her work at 4for4 and here at Yahoo as well. Appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, let's have a little bit of fun now. It's time for Fantasy Face-Off. Andy Behrens, it's this or that. And we're going to do this as Ezekiel Elliott. And then we're going to have to figure out Zeke and we'll start with Zeke tonight or A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, once again, the essential problem for Zeke is that he plays for a team that has scored 13 combined points in its last 3 games. So this is not some high ceiling play here. Can't really argue with A.J. Dillon's matchup this week. He gets the Giants. They've given up the 2nd most rushing touchdowns in the league. They allow almost 5 yards per carry. I think his problem is that Aaron Jones actually showed back up at practice today. And now we have some concern that, if Jones plays, obviously, it's probably 50-50. They may put Jones on a snap count, but Jones can really mess this up for Dillon because Dillon isn't so efficient that he can give away carries and still retain value. So this is a situation where I would just go ahead and play Zeke tonight.
How about Zeke versus Gus Edwards?
Yeah, you probably took this away from me talking about Keaton Mitchell earlier. I'm terrified of Gus Edwards right now. He was so good for that 5-game stretch in which he scored 9 touchdowns. He could reappear at the goal line for us, but again, he's coming off a game in which he played 19 snaps. He saw 9 touches. Again, it could bounce back. That would be great, but I'm not banking on it. I know the only thing that I can really guarantee with Zeke tonight is if he stays healthy throughout this game, he's getting 25 touches in this thing. So I'm going to play him.
All right, what about Zeke versus Alexander Madison?
Yeah, this is probably a spot where I'm going to play Madison. And he's getting, as you know, a somewhat generous Raiders run defense. I wouldn't call it a premium matchup necessarily, but it's certainly a matchup in which he can do a little bit of damage. I expect the Vikings run game to be unlocked a little bit with the return of Justin Jefferson, simply because he's a player who just has so much gravity, really tilts the field. So I think it's a pretty good spot for Madison. I would go there. I think he has a much better shot at finding the end zone.
All right, let's bring Matt Harmon back into the fun, and let's have a little bit of little fun around a fantasy feast, because we have the Eagles taking on the Cowboys. I don't know why I just did that. Like, there's even I sometimes face myself with my stupidity, but no. I went like somewhere between Cookie Monster and a meme. Okay, let's give something we're feasting on for this Eagles-Cowboys game. Matt Harmon, you're up first. Save me from myself. What do you got?
Yeah, please, God, pass the baton here, Fitz. Look, this is yet another great, critical, important NFC game, which is going to, like I said, important to the playoffs, MVP odds, all that stuff. But we're really here to talk about. We're here to talk about wide receiver play. Just like last week, it was a great spot with the Eagles and the 49ers. It is a fantastic spot here with the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm curious, who's going to have the bigger game between A.J. Brown versus CeeDee Lamb? Let's start with the A.J. Brown part of it. Like I mentioned earlier, when Dallas Goedert plays, like, A.J. Brown actually does tend to concentrate the targets more, and it makes sense. Also in this game, the Dallas Cowboys play single high coverage at the second highest rate in the NFL, according to Fantasy Points data. And A.J. Brown, when you single him up, when you just play man coverage like that with little safety help over the top, he's going to absolutely work you over. And he's been, for A.J. Brown standards, kind of quiet the last 3 games. Again, when Dallas Goedert has been out, I think he is going to come out and absolutely go to work on the Dallas Cowboys this week. But then you think about CeeDee Lamb. Like, how can you shy away from him? He leads the NFL in receiving yards since week 9. It's really hard to imagine a scenario where he doesn't absolutely smash the Dallas Cowboys. And I love what the Cowboys are doing. You're so right earlier in the show, Fitz, to say that Mike McCarthy has really figured this offense out. They've moved CeeDee Lamb around a ton. They've gotten him in different spots, except when they play the Eagles. When they play the Eagles, it's like, let's just get back in the slot, CeeDee, and let's absolutely tear up these linebackers, the safeties, the nickel corners where there have been a ton of injuries. We obviously saw the 49ers go to work on that unit this past week. I think CeeDee Lamb, if I'm picking between the two, I think he actually ends up having the bigger game. But, man, I could see these guys combining for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game.
So I love what you're saying, and it speaks to something that I've got my eye on with this, and it's really the weakness of the Eagles, because it was exposed last week. The weakness of the Eagles defense is absolutely their back 7. And when you start thinking about what's going to happen here, the question is, how can the Eagles fix what the 49ers just exposed? And I think the answer is they can't. Is it possible that Slay isn't the player he was? You mentioned Lamb, but this isn't just about him. It's about the entirety of the Dallas passing attack that I think we've been talking about a lot throughout the course of the show, rightfully so. They're able to design and get guys open all over the field. And what did we just see? When a good offensive coordinator with great weapons can turn around and design guys open all over the field, the 49ers put point after point after point. This is a challenge I'm not sure the Eagles are well equipped for from a matchup standpoint. So I think Philly's defense has a weakness here that's going to be taken on. Weakness versus strength. I think Dallas rolls in this game because I don't trust the back 7 of Philadelphia's defense at all in this matchup. Andy, what are you looking for here?
First of all, I'll tack on a point to your analysis there, Fitz, and that is one of the craziest stats I think in fantasy this season is that Philadelphia's defense has given up either the overall QB1 or QB2 in 6 different weeks this season. They've played 12 games. That's crazy. They've been super generous. I think at least the thing that I'm watching in this game, probably because I took him in primetime picks, is that I think we can end the calls for Tony Pollard to just retire and be replaced by Rico Dowdle or anyone else. Pollard has reached the end zone in 3 straight. He's seen at least 16 touches in each of those weeks. Basically, ever since Harmon and I declared that we were done discussing him on the Yahoo Fantasy podcast, he's been an RB1. So you're welcome for that. Philadelphia has the league's 4th-ranked run D in terms of yards per game, but I think they're kind of fraudulent. If you start looking at them in terms of efficiency, they've been pretty generous. Also, last 3 games, obviously McCaffrey goes off against everybody, but James Cook got to him, Isaiah Pacheco got to him. They've all had really useful fantasy games against Philly. So I don't consider this a stay-away spot for Pollard. He definitely has a higher percentage of interior runs this season. It's a lot more of that Zeke workload versus getting him outside and letting him try to break big plays. So maybe the big plays haven't been there, but the volume has. And I think you can trust him, at least in this matchup against a very vulnerable Eagles defense.
I really like what you just said, by the way, about the growth of this. And I'd never thought of this till you mentioned it, but we just presumed that Kellen Moore gone and McCarthy in as a play caller would mean a seamless offensive change. Maybe it takes a little time for everybody to click with the new play caller and with the new offense. I mean, I know it's the same offense, but it's not, right? So maybe a little tip of the cap to the Cowboys, just sort of getting rhythm here. It'll be proven on this weekend one way or the other. All right, it is time for some hurry-up offense. You know the drill. We put your questions up from #AskFFL. We put 25 seconds on the clock, and somehow I try and make it more complicated than it needs to be. Let's get the clock going. Cortland Sutton or Garrett Wilson is what Sage Boomer asks, and I'm not sure what Sage Boomer really means here, but Harmon, you made a face, so I'll throw it to you. What do you think?
Oh, God, Garrett Wilson. I mean, I guess no, you can't go back to Garrett Wilson. Not like this. I guess the answer is Cortland Sutton. Chargers pass defense is bad. He's the only thing that's good about that offense.
Oh, way to get it in before the wire, which sets us up perfectly for AMN, who asks, obviously, Andy Behrens, which Chicago Bears running back has the best upside? Tell us, Andy.
Oh, man, I feel like everybody wants me to say Roschon Johnson. I feel like I get this question a lot. He's the rookie. He's like the new thing, and he had 75 yards in his last game, and it was fun. He can catch the ball. He can do a little bit of everything. Khalil Herbert's really good, and he has started most games, and if he gets rolling, that's your guy.
That would be a delay of game 5-yard penalty. Jace asks Justin Jefferson, if back, Amari Cooper or Zach Charbonnet. All right, what do you think, Harmon, and why is it not Justin Jefferson?
Move on to the next one.
Come on. Give me, Justin Jefferson's taking on the juggernaut known as the Raiders defense, Harmon. Let's have a little respect.
Are you already drunk? Are you already been drinking? I mean, what is going on here?
All cranberry.
No, this is why. Okay. Matthew, let's get the next question up. Jalen Warren, Devin Singletary, or Nuke Hopkins in my flex spot in week 14. Also, I can't believe I just called him Nuke. I don't care what the nickname is. All right, Andy Behrens, what do you got?
Yeah, it's close with Hopkins, but I'm gonna go Jalen Warren here. And I feel like I've been picking Jalen Warren basically all show. Obviously, really good player, explosive, almost 6 yards per carry. Najee banged up. Warren again, best shot at a score.
Wow, with time left to spare. Golly, we're just running efficiently here. All right, Jeffrey Ryan, who seems to have a joyous picture, just sitting back, enjoying what seems, maybe it was a dinner, maybe it was a meal, I don't know. He asked Matt, Pacheco or Russell Wilson at super flex spot with question mark at the end?
Jeffrey, I really respect you for being the type of person who's not just like, oh, it's super flex, got to start the quarterback. If Pacheco's active, I'm going Pacheco over Russ.
Wow, I didn't give you enough time for more explanation. That's on me. OP says Herbert or Gainwell and Pickens or Downs. Oh, 2 questions for you, Andy Behrens. What do you think?
How do I get 2 questions in the hurry up? My other question was, well, never mind. I'm gonna go Khalil Herbert here over Gainwell. That's a given. DeAndre Swift's gonna play, so you got to go Herbert. And then I'm gonna go Josh Downs, even though Jen Akens doesn't like it. I think he's a great play.
Still got it in. And by the way, when we're running the 2-minute drill, don't argue with the refs. Just hand them the ball. Let's keep the thing going. Yeah. Let's go. I mean, God, what do we? All right, Rico asking PPR flex need one. Puka, Deontay Johnson, or Elijah Moore. Hey, okay, there we go. You want to tell anybody why? I mean,
listen, I love Elijah Moore. I wish the answer was Elijah Moore, and I think he could still have a big game with Joe Flacco. I really respect Joe Flacco for winning a Super Bowl, but mostly throwing the ball to Elijah Moore. Honestly, that's great stuff. But Puka is the right answer here. He's the figure of the Rams offense.
Look at that. I forced him into more, and he gave it to us. Ahem. I don't know if that's the way we're going to pronounce it, but we're going to go ahem with a half PPR. It's really EHM. Zay Flowers, Laporta, Noah Brown, or DK. Hashtag AskFFL. Andy Behrens, you finally get the chance to make up with Laporta. What do you think?
How dare you? How dare you give me this question? Obviously, I can't bench DK Metcalf. He's coming off a 1,000,000 touchdown game. He's going to score again. He's great. Got to play him. But then you're going to put Laporta in your tight end slot. What are we doing here? How many tight ends are better than him? You got to play Laporta as well.
I'm just saying, if I'm writing the headline, it's going to be trouble in paradise. Andy doesn't love Laporta anymore. All right. Adam says, in a PPR, have Chris Olave, Bijan Robinson, and Devon Achane need one flex. What do you think, Harmon?
Oh, my gosh.
I know. Oh, my gosh, is right, Andy. I wish I had one of these teams. I do not.
Seriously.
I think with the amount of work Bijan Robinson has gotten of late, you've got to go with him. The Falcons lead the NFL, no shock, in rush attempts since they came back from their bye.
Oh, and still gets it. Harmon's a total pro. All right, Brett, Andy, you get this one. Justin Jefferson, we know that's obviously not the answer. Keenan Allen or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Ask FFL can play 2 of the 3. Who's out? Yes, it's a small league.
Oh, man. Again, options I wish I had. Yeah, you're playing Justin Jefferson. Don't care that he's been out of the lineup for a long time. He's as good as it gets. And I'm playing Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know how you can sit him against the Bears. It feels awkward to leave Keenan Allen on the sideline, but I got to do it here.
What I know is that now when Brett goes back to his league, he should be like, it's a small league after. I don't know if we can even sing that. That probably costs a lot of people a lot of money. I'm sorry. I screwed it all up. What I haven't screwed up is our primetime picks. By the way, just a reminder, everybody, I'm still in first place. That does it for this edition of Fantasy Football Live. Check back in Sunday morning for the latest on player injuries, and our own Scott Pianowski will be answering your last-minute lineup questions on social media at #AskFFL. You can also hit me up, because I'm in first place on this thing. So I just a reminder that as a first placer, is there a prize? Do I get a championship belt? Okay, Harmon, okay.
You get to come back to the show next season. We'll allow it.
Okay,
only if you win, though. Don't blow this.
Okay, if I don't win, I'm unemployed. There we go. There's no pressure at all. Like, the stakes just got raised. Hey, a big thanks to producer Ron Schultz. He's done mountains of work behind the scenes. We could not do this show without the great work he's done every single week, and I really want to say thanks to him for making me feel so welcome from the first day that I've done this show. Absolutely incredible from him. He's been with us for 4 seasons. Great work all around from Ron. All right, good luck in Week 14. We will see you next week, and God, if you thought I was bad, I could clinch if I win again this week, right? Like next week, I could just come in with the championship robe. Whoa, we got to get like Ric Flair on or something. I don't know. Y'all have a great week. Thank you so much.